What's up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or, of course, if you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel. AJ, I actually checked earlier. I think we're like 2 subscribers away from 12,000, so we might already hit that by the time this video.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I had to throw that in there as well. I was checking out some stuff earlier, so that's great to see. Appreciate all our subscribers, of course, and everybody who watches. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, after a week layoff, Carolina having a bye week after their win over Duke, we're back with another episode of the UNC Football Show. We're going to be talking through some of the game week storylines from this week, as we always do, before we dive into the preview for North Carolina versus Pittsburgh, 8 p.m. matchup this Saturday in Kenan Stadium. That game will be on the ACC network, and obviously some potentially, some big Coastal Division implications in there as well, depending on how the game goes. But AJ, before we kind of dive into that a little bit later, I want to kind of look back on this week a little bit. Let's sit around and kind of talk about some of the game week storylines coming out of this week. You've been out of all the press conferences and all that stuff. So I'm going to ask you this to start out. We'll kind of move into other things we want to talk about. But it seems like one of the bigger themes from Mack Brown's press conferences, at least, is one of the quotes, not talking about the Coastal Division race, trying to just focus on the task at hand, game after game, not focusing on, the implications of other things that are going along with it, as Carolina's obviously sitting in first place in the Coastal right now. So that, to me, was a big talking point, a big storyline that came out on Monday. This team's trying to stay focused moving forward. And I know I definitely want you to hit on that and some of the other stuff that you got from the press conferences.
I think he really likes their zone that they're in. And he's liked it all along. And when you go back to the defense players only meeting the day after the Notre Dame game, a lot of people thought, hey, that's kind of alarming that they had to do that. But that's actually an indication of how together the team is, because it was an agreeable thing. They hashed a lot of stuff out. There was a lot of trust and honesty in the meeting, and everybody walked out of it feeling okay, no matter what was said. And I think that has been a sign for the last month plus that this is a harmonious group. This is a connected group. So Mack doesn't want them to deviate from where they've been. They've been on a good course. They have found ways to win games, even when the defense has been terrible. And teams that are together do that. Teams that are in the right frame of mind do that. They have proven to be quite resilient. In fact, Cedric Gray, every time we talk to him, he brings up the fact that, hey, we're a resilient team, not just a resilient defense, but a resilient team. So Mack loves sort of the train mentality. You're on a train, you're humming along, you don't need to stop. You don't need to refuel or anything like that. Even during the open date period, they kind of kept the same mental process going. They understand that they're ranked. They understand what's at stake in the Coastal. They understand there could be some really big things they're playing for down the road, but they're processing it differently than last year's team processed positive things and negative things, which is why this club has been able to find ways to win games. So I kind of like the approach, and I do think that part of this is also a sign of the team, the program growing up, because the program you and I talk process all the time, Jacob.
Yeah.
The program has to learn how to do things. 2 years ago, they're number 5 in the country. They go to Tallahassee, they get blown up out of the gate. Last year, they opened the season number 10 in the country. They're picked as a CFP contender. Sam is a Heisman contender. They get blown up out of the gate. They're terrible in Blacksburg, especially offensively. And then that was that. And the team 2 years ago rebounded somewhat, but they still had the loss to Virginia 2 weeks later. They just didn't handle it very well. They weren't ready to be the number 5 team. Mm-hmm. Last year, they weren't ready to be the number 10 team. Now they're number 21. Now they're in the driver's seat of the Coastal. And I think that they're ready to handle that. And that's sort of Mack's mission. Hey, it's not a big deal, guys. We have much bigger goals than to be sitting here a week before Halloween, ranked number 21 in the country, and be 3-0 in the ACC. Much bigger things to achieve moving forward. And I think there's a general understanding of that in the Kenan Football Center.
Yeah, agreed. And we're going to know a lot more about how this team deals with that almost prosperity, being able to sitting at first in the Coastal Division right now. We're going to know a lot more about how this team handles it, not only starting this weekend, but they're going not too long away from going up to Charlottesville as well, a place they've historically struggled with against a Virginia program that's struggling. But if you want to win the Coastal Division and play in an ACC championship game, you have to keep winning. I know Carolina's sitting at first. I believe has a 2-game lead in the Coastal right now. Last weekend worked out really, really well for them. And it's just about keeping on winning. But I do agree. I think the perspective in the program kind of putting the blinders on of everything else and saying, let's just focus at one game at a time. These rankings don't really mean anything. We're sitting at first right now, but that can change. We just have to take it day by day, week by week, and keep winning. I think that's a sign of growth within the program, but I also think it's going to be interesting from a media perspective and for fans as well to be able to see how this young team handles where they're sitting at right now. Can they maintain that? And more importantly, can they keep winning games against teams that, coming up especially, you would expect North Carolina to beat? So I think that's going to be a fun thing to kind of follow and see what happens.
I've said a few times that they're actually in a great situation where they're winning games, they're moving the needle forward, but there's so much to fix.
Yeah.
So I think the staff has a pretty easy sell, especially to one side of the ball. Or look, okay, we're 6-1, 3-0, we're 21st in the country, but guys, we got to get a lot better. And there've been enough snafus on offense. The 2 fumbles by Drake, the weird one with Caleb Hood hitting him as he was getting ready to throw the ball, stuff like that, where they're able to look at them and say, guys, we got to get a lot better. But we had that 63-point game, but what are we outside of that? So there is plenty of room to improve. We got to get better protecting Drake. We've got to get better running the ball conventionally. There are a lot of things there for both sides. So the staff has enough ammunition to say, okay, this is great. All these things are wonderful, but man, look at all this stuff, guys. There are a lot of parts on the floor. You need to put them together, get this machine going the right way, and it's going to take some time. So it is a good situation to be in where you're rolling along sort of, but you have a lot more to improve on. So if they do make these improvements, by the time they play their toughest games of the season, which are still coming up, when they go to Wake Forest, Wake could very well be number 5 or 6 in the country by the time they get there. I think Wake is a really, really good team. And State might be settled with the quarterback situation by the time State rolls in to Chapel Hill. So that if the Tar Heels do make these improvements, then they're much better situated to deal with whatever they're going to face in Winston-Salem and then to take on the Wolfpack the day after Thanksgiving. If they don't make these improvements, then we're all going to look back and say, hey, remember when they were ranked the week before Thanksgiving? As Max said, you lose once and you're not going to get back in. People are going to forget about you. You're not going to be talked about anymore. So just take care of business and improve each week. And that is something that the players were saying Tuesday night when we talked to them. Look, we don't really care about the ranking. It's nice and all, but our mission is to improve each week. It's a great thing for them to say because there is a lot to improve on.
Yeah, agree. It'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of practice what they preach in that scenario because, it's college football and anything we've seen from this year, you just never know what's going to happen, particularly in this Coastal Division as well. AJ, anything else that stood out? I know we kind of right there, we're talking about Mack and the coordinators' press conferences. I know you were at the player press conferences on Tuesday. Anything else that maybe stood out this week you want to chat about or anything along those lines?
Well, I asked Drake on Tuesday about that fumble with Caleb Hood. I said, has a teammate ever caused a fumble? He said, oh, yeah. That happens in practice sometimes. He said it happened in his freshman year during a scrimmage. And he said that's not Caleb's fault. It's his fault. Caleb got a lot of crap on social media for it. Drake said it's his responsibility because it's an RPO where the back is on the right side and he's going to go left. And he needs to have the right footwork to not be in his way because the back still has to sell it. Just because the quarterback's dropping, part of that is you might just give the ball to the back right there, right? So he's trying to sell movement, and Drake said it was on him. So my takeaway with that is Drake is so self-critical. He's so self-critical about everything, and that's wonderful because this dude's getting talked about. He's racking up yards. He's getting all kinds of stuff showered on him, and he's the same right now he was when we talked to him in August. And I also asked him, I said, we talked to you the day after or 2 days after being named the starter, and you said a couple kids in one of your classes came up to you and gave you an attaboy. So now you're getting attaboys nationally.
Yeah.
People across the country who are national sports media, national college football people are heaping praise on you. How are you processing that? And it was almost as if he didn't even know. He knows it, but it was almost as if he didn't because he's so uber focused on moving everything forward and improving every little fine-tuned element of his craft. But that's all he cares about, that and winning and being one of the guys. So, we're trying to learn about him, and learning about a quarterback's personality is a big part about covering a football team because eventually that personality is a part of the team's fiber, not just his or even the offense, part of the team's fiber. And I think that that's part of why this club's been resilient. I think that's part of why Mack has been very pleased with how they've handled things. And he's confident moving forward that they're not going to really worry about the Coastal. They're not going to worry about rankings because the biggest name on their team, the guy that most people want to talk about, is already dialed in that way. So there's sort of a trickle-down effect to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. That's great to see. And you know, you're talking about just how good Drake has been and the fact that he doesn't really realize. I'm just looking at some of his stats right now. You know, he's over 2,200 yards. That's 8th best in the country, 24 touchdowns, 2nd best in the country, tied for 23rd with just 3 interceptions. And his QBR is 88.6 with his 5th best in the country right now. So I know stats don't necessarily tell the whole story, but I think with Drake May, they do. He's been really, really good this year compared to, you can compare him to just about any quarterback in the country, and he's arguably been better, if not just as good. So, you know, a lot of expectations around him. And again, if Carolina keeps winning, Carolina finds itself in that ACC championship conversation, then Drake May's stock and, you know, the attention that he continues to get is only going to increase, you know?
Yeah. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if Carolina and Wake went out, and Wake probably should, they do have to play at State the week before. If Hartman plays really, really well, and Drake continues to play really, really well, and both teams went out, you're going to have a couple of one-loss teams playing in the middle of November in Winston-Salem, and that game might be for which quarterback gets invited to New York. Or maybe they both get invited. I think Drake has the inside track to that because he's been better than Hartman, and he's in a more high-profile situation, and his name, everybody knows the name.
Yeah. Yeah,
so you don't have to people say, who's that guy? There are still people around the country that don't know who Sam Hartman is, which is really unfortunate because he's a fantastic great quarterback player. Yeah, he's going to be an NFL quarterback, and that's a great program and a great story, a great program in terms of what Wake has been historically. It's kind of funny. Funny if you will. Wake's had its 2 best football coaches of all time back-to-back. I mean, they struck gold with Jim Grobe, whom I covered a lot, and they struck gold with Dave Clawson, and now they've got a great quarterback. So I actually, we don't root here, but I think it'd be really cool if both teams went out.
Oh, yeah.
Because it would be amazing to see Wake Forest home game with a zoo-like environment.
Yeah.
But like the football teams are not supposed to, we can't get ahead of ourselves. The Tar Heels have to take care of business this weekend, and it's going to be a very tough challenge because Pitt excels in areas that Carolina struggles with.
Agreed, AJ. And that's a great segue into the matchup, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for the UNC Football Show. You guys know we love them, myperfectfranchise.net. So, guys, I know the economy's kind of crazy right now. Job market's still a little wild. But with My Perfect Franchise, it's a great time to take control of your own career or your own career path. So if you're looking to diversify, looking to leave the corporate rat race and gain control of your income and schedule, what about having unlimited PTO and the ability to create income and wealth? Well, guys, look no further than myperfectfranchise.net. Just a quick rundown on who they are and who Andy is. Andy Ludicky is the founder and owner of My Perfect Franchise, long-time Rivals member, diehard college football fan, and most importantly, a franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses throughout his career. So what he does using his expertise is he helps others find their American dream through a thorough and very, very free consultation process. Keyword free. I got to keep hitting on that. Free consultation process to see if potentially starting a franchise is something you want to do and is right for you. So guys, call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands, 100% free. So what do you really have to lose, guys? Again, if you're interested in potentially opening a franchise, you see these things popping up everywhere. You can do it too, and you can make it happen with Andy Ludicky. And guys, if you do end up talking to him, like I always plug in here, AJ, massive Mack Brown fan as well. So if you do end up talking to him, make sure you talk a little Mack with him, and make sure you tell him that TarHeelIllustrated.com sent you. Again, myperfectfranchise.net. Link is in the description below. All right, AJ. Again, let's dive into the Pitt matchup. I'm going to go through just some overall kind of stats, and then we'll dive a little bit more specifically into the Panthers and who they are and the challenge that awaits North Carolina. Sitting at 4-3 overall, 1-2 in ACC, 4th in the Coastal Division right now. Losses coming to Tennessee, who's obviously having a fantastic year so far. And only lost that game by 7, I believe. Georgia Tech and Louisville have lost 2 out of their last 3, though. So Pittsburgh not playing the greatest of football over the past few weeks, but again, had some tough matchups in there as well. Averaging 31.9 points per game, allowing 25.9 points per game on defense. Offense ranks 8th in the ACC in scoring offense. Defense is ranked number 5. So good defense, solid offense. And we'll dive into a little bit more of where the offense really excels at here in a second, which you alluded to. They excel at something that Carolina has struggled with at times this year. Quarterback Keaton Slovis thrown for over 1,300 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So not an exceptional year for the senior quarterback, who's obviously replacing Kenny Pickett and what he was able to do over the last few years, being one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And AJ, this is where it really starts. Really, really strong running game. I know if you're an ACC football fan, you've heard the name. Israel Abanikande has rushed. He actually rushed for over 320 yards in their win over Virginia Tech earlier this month. So had some massive single games and already has 959 yards on the season, which leads the ACC. And you told me this. I didn't realize this until you told me off camera. Also leads the nation in all-purpose yards right now as well. An exceptional running back and definitely one of, if not the best in the country. He's going to be a guy that Carolina's going to really, really be keyed on. Focus on the defense really quickly. Panthers have 21 sacks on the season, which is tied for 21st in the nation, average 6.4 tackles for loss per game. Savasier Dennis, linebacker, leads the team in tackles with 50 total and is 5th in the ACC in sacks with 5. When you look at that defense, he's the guy. He makes it all happen. And like I said, not only a great guy but in terms of making tackles and, past the line of scrimmage in the open field, but a guy that gets behind as well and can get sacks. So I know I just do a lot of stuff at you, but AJ, I think the biggest thing that stands out from that is just how good Abanikande is. This isn't a team that's been super successful passing the ball this year. Slovis' stats aren't very good, especially when you compare him to who he's replaced in Kenny Pickett. But Carolina struggled at times to stop the run, and Abanikande is it's just a fact. He's going to be the toughest running back, at least in terms of how he's playing this year, that Carolina's faced this year. So for me, that's really what I want to focus on, because I think could potentially be where the game is won and lost when you look at Carolina's defensive inconsistencies, I'll put this season.
And it's not just that he's good and that they run well. It's their commitment to running.
Yeah.
They're going to punish. Man. They're going to punish. They're going to pound you. Like you said, they're going to try to wear you down. Carolina took a little bit of a hit with depth with Vahasek being out for the season.
Yeah.
But Pitt's committed to running. And they will throw. And that's the thing. I'd be willing to bet you the staff is really concerned this week. Thinking, Keaton Slovis is due to find the guy he was before the injury.
Yeah.
Find the guy that had some success before he got to Pitt. If you go back to the Tennessee game, and we all look at Tennessee now as thinking, holy crap, they could win a national title, but they were in a dogfight in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And that game went to overtime, and Slovis gets hurt, I believe, late in the first half of that game. And if you've seen Pitt's backups play, it's no wonder they lost that game. And that's the truth, right? Mm-hmm. So Pitt was in position to beat Tennessee, and they had just beaten West Virginia. So, and they scored. They moved the ball pretty well against West Virginia. So it's kind of hard to figure out what to make of the passing game. Here's a guy who's had success before, but he's really struggled of late. His best game for yardage was in the loss to Georgia Tech, which was totally perplexing. They clearly weren't ready to play that game because Tech had just fired Collins and the Jackets were rejuvenated. But since then, the last 2 games, Slovis has no touchdown pass. He's completed like 52% of his passes, no touchdown passes, and 3 interceptions. Mm-hmm. So is that the guy that shows up Saturday? Or is the guy that was chucking it all over the place for a while and they were moving the ball with a great balance against Tennessee, did that against West Virginia? Which Keaton Slovis shows up? I know that a lot of Carolina fans, and there's even a post on our board about Carolina allowing quarterbacks to have their best games against them. But one of my 5 keys that will be posted Thursday, I have in there, they got to keep Slovis in character and recent character.
Yeah.
He's not been very good lately. They got to keep him. They can't let this be the game he finds himself and goes off. If they do that, they can still win, even if Abanikande has a great game. Mm-hmm. They can still do that because I think you got to slow the run. They don't really have to stop the run, but they cannot get beat in the passing game. Yeah. They cannot let his arm beat them. They just can't do that. That to me is going to be a huge part of how Carolina handles this game. If they can keep him struggling and be solid against the run with Carolina's offense, I think that'll be enough to win the game. Now, is that enough to satisfy fans? Probably not. Would that be enough for Mack to say, okay, we made some progress defensively here and move forward? Probably so. Mm-hmm. Because I think this is going to be moving something inch by inch. I don't think you're going to see dramatic improvements on defense, even though 4 of their last 5 games are against offenses that have issues. And their defensive numbers should be pretty good moving forward because Virginia's offense is awful and Georgia Tech's offense is awful. And NC State hadn't yet scored a touchdown since Leary got hurt, an offensive touchdown. So there's an opportunity for the defense to get healthy, but they have to get healthy while also playing well, not just because other teams have issues. And they cannot let them not have issues against them. That to me is the key. Don't let Slovis go off. And I think they have a great chance of winning.
Agree. That's a great point too, because you look at his recent struggles. He has proven at times throughout his career he is a good quarterback. He just hasn't, like you said, in particular. I know he got coming off the injury and everything that has played a factor as well. But just looking overall at his statistics, you can't let him excel, and that's something we've seen from Carolina in the past. We've seen Carolina make very ordinary quarterbacks look very, very good. And
Drew Pine says hello.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can look back this year and you can look back previous years as well. It's just kind of been a theme for this program at times. So I completely agree. When you've got a running back that's that good, it's going to be very hard to just completely stop him. But if you can slow him down, that's going to give, the offense an advantage because, again, we've seen it so many times this year. It seems like Carolina's always, in a lot of ways, been forced to outscore their opponents. And granted, the defense has made some big plays late in games, but they put themselves in positions where they've had to make those plays when necessarily if they would have played better throughout the game, they wouldn't have had to make a goal line stand here or create a turnover here to get off the field. It's how football goes. But I think those are the big keys.
Let me give a
ahead.
Quick shout out. Sorry to interrupt. But
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Shout out to the defense here. They gave up 542 to Duke. They gave up 496 passing to Miami. But in the 3 ACC games, they're giving up 23 points a game.
Yeah.
And they haven't given up any points in the third quarter yet in the 3 ACC games. So that speaks to adjustments. That speaks to the players trusting the staff, which Mack talked about Wednesday after practice. He said, I think the kids trust us. Well, the way they play in the third quarter defensively speaks to that. They take what Gene says, they make those little adjustments, and it works for a while. You can't stop everybody all the time, but the third quarter is so vitally important that they've been able to have some terrific third quarters, which in some cases they should have sealed games when they didn't. But the defense, they weren't playing 4 quarters before. If you can get them to play 2 or 1.5 quarters now, or struggle for 2 or 1.5 quarters as opposed to 3 or 4, that's obviously improvement. So that adjustment at halftime thing, that third quarter is actually something that I think is impressive and shows that they are making progress, even though across the board it may not appear so as much. But 23 points in ACC games, I think is something that we should look at and say, okay, there's some progress here. And with what's coming up, they have a chance to do even better if they are improving. We'll see for sure if they're getting better, Jacob, because if they give up a lot of yards and too many points to teams like Pitt, and I know Pitt can be pretty good, but they're not explosive. And certainly Virginia and then Georgia Tech and the way State's played offensively, that's a bad side. So Mack says judge us after 12 games. The defense will be fully judged after these next 5 because 4 of them, they should post pretty good numbers, and that begins this weekend.
Agreed. And you always have an advantage when you look at how good Carolina's offense has been this year. It's not like you have to hold teams to 20 points to have a chance to win. That just makes it a big plus because you have an offense. We saw it in the Duke game. We've seen it other times this year, who's obviously very explosive, who's going to put up points pretty much every game, but can also make drives down the field when they have to as well late in games and win you. And just go look at the Duke game for that. So that's a big advantage as well. We've talked about it so many times, AJ. People aren't really asking for Carolina's defense to be exceptional. They don't really need to be exceptional. When you look at how good Drake and the offense has been, if they can just be average, slightly above average, they're going to win a lot of football games. And that's kind of the situations they find themselves in right now, sitting at 6-1 and 3-0 in the ACC. So, yeah, Jake, keys to victory for me. I know you hit on it. Don't let Slovis have this come out game that he really hasn't had this year. And for me, again, too, slow down that run. It's going to be hard to stop a Bonacande, but if you can slow him down and force Pitt to have to go through the air with Slovis more, put the emphasis on him instead of putting the emphasis on one of the best, if not the best running backs and all-purpose backs in college football right now, that's got to make you feel a lot better going into the game. So those are my keys to victory. I think we're kind of on the same page with those.
Let me add one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
An offensive key is they got to protect Drake because Pitt can get after the quarterback. That's one of their missions. And pass protection's been so-so. It's been okay. But it's got to be – it can't be worse than okay Saturday.
Yeah.
They have to give Drake enough time to make his plays and do what he's got to do and limit the hits because Pitt is physical. Drake's been getting hit too much. His uniform was way too dirty, and Wallace Wade was way too dirty down there at Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah.
He needs to have he'll be clean because they're playing on the fake stuff Saturday night, but he's getting hit too much, and they got to limit that. And it would help if they can get a little bit more of a conventional ground game. Expect to see, expect to see Elijah Green. They're telling us he's in the mix right now. So there's a little burst of speed there. And very quickly, for the fans that are wondering why wasn't he playing before, he broke his thumb on his left hand in the FAMU game. And he wasn't able to carry the ball for a while. He had a club. Kevin, were down shooting a game and told me in pregame, I think it was before Notre Dame, that he had a club.
I think it was there. Kevin, yeah.
And so he hadn't run the ball from FAMU until the Duke game, but he was out on special teams. He told Mack, he said, look, I want to play. I want to help this team. So he's been on the kickoff team and done a bunch of other stuff, but he's better now. He's not 100% healthy, but he's better. He can carry the ball. And they needed a spark in that game, and he gave them a little bit. He gave them a little bit of that bursting speed through the holes. So he probably will play some. And if suddenly he's a guy giving them some conventional running, then I think this offense has a chance to be spectacular. It's already really good. But if they can get a little bit of a conventional ground game and generate some drives and move the chain some, that'll help the defense because Pitt wants to control the clock. Yep. They want a lot of time possession. We saw what Notre Dame did wearing down the defense, and Pitt will want to do the same thing. So if the offense can flip the script a little bit and have some possessions where they move the chains and they use a little bit of clock and they give the defense a chance to get a break, and also you go over stuff. That will help the defense's efforts against Pitt, especially that ground game.
Agreed. Yeah, Pitt's like you said, Pitt's a really good team up front. 21 sacks on the season, which is, like I said, 21st in the nation right now. So they're a team that gets after the quarterback. They're a team that can make tackles and will make tackles behind the line of scrimmage. So I completely agree. You protect Drake, you give him time, and if you can get guys like Elijah Green to join that already, pretty solid rotation we've seen of Caleb Hood and Amarion Hampton. If you got another back into the mix and get him playing like he did against the Blue Devils, that just adds a whole nother dimension to that offense that I already said is already pretty dang hard to stop with how good Drake's been and their wide receivers as well, who we haven't even talked about. So AJ, yeah, man, let's go ahead and get to the last part of this, the UNC Football Show, our prediction time, as we always like to wrap it up with. I sent my pick in on Tuesday, I believe. I think it was Tuesday morning, not as early as I like to get it into you, AJ. So, a little bit disappointed with that, but I got it in Tuesday morning.
You were still first. You were still first.
That's what that's my only goal during the week. Like they say, if you're not first, you're last. So I'll just try to get in there as early as you can.
And Brandon P hasn't sent his in. So, and whenever someone doesn't send theirs in, I'm calling them out on the phone.
I like it, man. You call them out on the podcast. That's where we'll air it out. It's Wednesday afternoon right now. You can air it out and let them know. Yeah. Love it. AJ, I'm saying 42-31 North Carolina in this one. Again, I think Carolina puts up points. I think it's going to be a tight game. I know it's an 11-point win right there for the Tar Heels. I know that's can look comfortable. I don't think it'll necessarily be comfortable. I think it will be a game that, goes deep into the fourth quarter in terms of it being a close one. But I'm saying 42-31. I think Pitt puts some points up. I'm a little bit intrigued to see how they not only can they make can they stop an average quarterback from looking very good, and can they stop the run? I think Pitt will put some points up, especially look at how good their running game has been. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit lower than that on the Pitt side, if they scored less than 31 points, but I'm going to go 42-31. It seems like we're always seeing high score matchups anyway with Carolina. So 42-31 Tar Heels is my pick.
Yeah, I don't recall what I did for my score. I always forget.
I have to go look at my email before
I do. I'm looking at Carolina as a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. It may be a little more, and I kind of agree with you. The score may end up a little bit wider margin than maybe what appears on the field for most of the game. I could see Carolina getting a late score to make it look like a 17-point game when it's really closer than that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the Tar Heels are also due a really impressive all-around performance. And a fairly convincing one, not just a fairly convincing one. They have one against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech stinks. They're terrible. Pitt's not terrible. So, so Pitt's not terrible. Virginia Tech is. I think this is an opportunity for Carolina to sort of flex its muscles and just send a little message saying, okay, we're not just a team that's going to emerge in the Coastal. because the Coastal stinks. We're actually becoming a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
I think the Tar Heels are more inclined to make that statement than otherwise Saturday. So I'm looking at 14, 17 points. Wouldn't surprise me if it's a little bit more than that. And remember, every time these teams have played in ACC games since Pitt joined the league, I think every game's been decided by a touchdown or less.
Yeah, it's always been a good game, yeah.
So the law of averages, I mean, at some point, someone's going to clobber somebody else, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
And given the fact that it's Carolina's fourth sellout in as many home games, it's at night. Pitt's respected. By the way, Pitt has not been in Chapel Hill since 2018.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you are right.
Yeah,
wow,
because they didn't come. They didn't come in the COVID year, just like Georgia Tech. They haven't been in Chapel Hill since 2018 either, and they come next month. So
good point.
I think this is lining up, and my expectation for Carolina as a guy who covers the team and sort of gauges the progress that they're making, the course that they're on. My expectation is that they win fairly convincingly, even though I think for a while to be competitive on the field. But they're just, the Be the One slogan, they have that talent that can step up and make plays. At some point, someone's going to get a pick and run it.
Yeah.
At some point, someone's going to return a punt for a touchdown. At some point, they're going to scoop up a fumble and score. They're going to do some of that kind of stuff, maybe hit a couple of huge plays and have some sustained drives. I think that this game sets up for a lot of different things to happen that make the Tar Heels look pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a really big opportunity. Like you said, it's a Pitt team that may be struggling more than some people expected. Carolina playing some really good football. And not only that, we haven't really talked about it, but coming off a bye week as well. So had an extra week to get healthy and prepare for a Pitt team that's lost 2 out of its last 3 and what is, not the greatest Coastal Division everybody's ever seen. So I think Carolina's got a big advantage going into this game. I think it's a game that Carolina should win. But I think the most interesting thing is, okay, Carolina's got a little prosperity right now. They're sitting pretty in the Coastal. Can they really take care of business and show, hey, yeah, we're not messing around this year. We're trying to make a run for that ACC championship game. Even though we're a young team, we've got enough talent and we've got enough kind of charisma and belief within the team to keep winning ball games and finding ways to win, which credit to Carolina, especially in ACC play. They've done a fantastic job of just finding a way to win games. And sometimes that's just what it takes. So fun matchup on Saturday in Kenan Stadium. Really looking forward to it. Again, 8 p.m. that game will be on ACC Network. AJ, before we leave real quick, I've been meaning to do this for about 3 weeks now. I don't even think I've told you about this. I had a kid, shout out to Bryce. I had a kid named Bryce, really nice kid. His family was up there as well. They came up to me during not late night with Roy, good Lord, live action with Carolina basketball. I was actually standing on the court beforehand and I heard somebody shouting my name and I turned around and Bryce, I don't know. I can't, he probably, young kid, really nice kid. Went up and he took a picture with him. They actually posted it on Twitter. His family watches all of our podcasts and everything like that. So that was the first time I've ever been asked for a picture in public, which was a pretty weird experience for me, to be honest with you, if you know what I mean. So I just had to I've been meaning to shout him out for doing that and for his family for, showing the love that they did and just showing the love towards Tar Heel Illustrated. So my apologies to them for it taking me 3 weeks to do it. I've actually had it written in my notes for about 3 weeks now. But I just wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to Bryce and his family. Much love for the love you guys show. We really appreciate that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I've never understood why people would want to take my.
Who the heck wants to take a picture with me, man? Right?
I've had it happen to me in the supermarket, which is kind of crazy. But
yeah, it's weird, man. There's a few times where people have come up to me in public, and like I said, it means a ton just because it's really nice to know that people watch our stuff more.
That's what it means.
Yeah, that's all
what it means. Said that before. It just means that people appreciate what we're doing, and that's what we do it. We without people appreciating what we do, we don't do what we do because we don't have the audience for it. So we're always appreciative of that. And hello, Bryce and his family. Yeah,
man. I had to give a shout out to him. He's a really nice kid.
I never saw that, by the way. You got to send that to me.
I'll share it to you on Twitter. I'll send it to you. I meant to share it with you. Like I said, I think it was his mom and dad were up there, and there was I can't believe it was 2 sisters, or there was 1 sister up there as well who, according to him, his dad's a big fan of what we do and watches all our stuff. So seemed like his whole family.
Jacob's got a fan club, folks. Jacob's got a fan club.
Hey, like I said, I had to pinch myself a little bit that somebody actually wanted to take a picture with me and stuff like that. That's a pretty cool experience. And again, it's not about ego boost or anything like that. It's just, it's nice to know that people appreciate what we do and actually watch and kind of love our stuff. So we do it for you guys. And like I said, we really, really appreciate the love, but had to throw that in there. Like I said, I'm sorry I'm 3 weeks late on that.
If Jacob Turner has a fan club, that means the rotation of the earth may shift course.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, man, it makes no sense to me. Like I said, it makes no sense to me at all. But shout out to Bryce And yeah, we really appreciate it.
Well, props to you. You do terrific work. So
I appreciate it, AJ.
Much appreciating this. Maybe I'll get a photo with you sometime.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, we need to do it. I don't even know if we've ever actually had a photo together.
Probably
which is pretty
not.
wild when you think about it. I know you've taken some photos of me in different new locations.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we've ever
taken
actually
photos
had one
especially early on, like when we get interns or something on, or someone new to the staff, when they get some spots, get some pretty good photos of them. And in media situations and stuff, which is I always enjoy that.
Then again, you could just go screenshot any of the hundreds of podcasts we've done together in Three Things videos and find a picture. So I guess we do technically have a lot of snapshots of us out there, but
guess so.
Yeah, good place to wrap this one up, though, AJ. I had to throw that in there. I'm glad I actually remembered it this time.
And if anybody is listening to the end of this podcast as we sit here and lather each other, send us a DM, tell us what you heard, and I may have something for you. I'll pick out at least one person who replies and sends us a DM, and we'll have something for you.
Hey,
I can tell you what it is. Yeah. You got to figure it out. So,
at Twitter.
This is spur of the moment stuff right here.
I like it, man. I'm a big fan of that stuff. It's at Heel Illustrated. Links actually in the description as well. If you click on the bottom, you'll see our Twitter link. It'll take you right over there. So AJ's got something for you guys. So if you, like I said, if you listen this far, you deserve something. I will say, if you've listened this far, right, AJ? I mean, they deserve something if they made it this far. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. We appreciate it.
They need more exciting things to happen in their life.
Exactly. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Again, we appreciate the support from each and every one of you guys. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, share it, hit that notification bell as well. I'm hoping by the time this video is posted, we're over 12,000 subscribers. I would think if we're not and you're watching right now, we only need 2 of y'all to hit subscribe. So go ahead and hit that so we can get over that mark. Make sure you keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com as well. And if you're a member of our premium message boards, which you can do for just $8.33 a month, as we always like to do, head on over to our premium boards once we post the staff picks later this week. Get involved, throw your predictions in there as well. We like to hear what you guys think is going to happen this Saturday against Pitt in Kenan Stadium. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.